My name is Thomas Ray Garcia. I'm an educator from Pharr, Texas, the city where I was raised by a single mother, the city where I was educated at Pharr-San Juan-Alamo ISD, the city where I returned to teach after graduating from Princeton University, the city where I founded my college access program, which has helped thousands of students to and through college, the city where I currently reside today as an English professor at South Texas College. And it is from the City of Pharr today that I am announcing my candidacy for the Texas State Board of Education District 2 in the Democratic primary. I'm running for the State Board of Education because I can't stand aside. I can't stand aside as our children continue to fall further behind in reading, writing, and math. I can't stand aside as our teenagers suffer silently through mental health crises, the likes of which we had never seen before. I can't stand aside as our high school graduates enter a world unprepared for the 21st century workforce. I can't stand aside as our students' futures are determined by politicians who have never once taught in the classroom. I can't stand aside as our parents feel invisible and unheard in the decisions that impact their children's education. I can't stand aside as our teachers are judged by a single high-stakes test instead of teaching for tomorrow. I can't stand aside as our public schools are weakened by private school vouchers, which will leave too many children behind. I can't stand aside as our federal government cuts crucial funding and social services for our children, our teenagers, our graduates, our parents, our teachers, and our public schools. There are moments in our lives when we must decide where we stand. I choose to stand up for our public schools, and that's why I'm running for the State Board of Education. The State Board of Education's main duties are to set the statewide learning standards and to approve instructional materials like textbooks for our Texas public schools. In other words, the board determines what teachers teach and what students learn in public schools. The board also determines graduation requirements. It oversees the Texas Permanent School Fund, and it handles many other important duties that relate to the quality of public education in our state. These duties matter. They shape the lives of our students on a daily basis. Students like the ones I teach. Students like the one I once was. I was raised in a single mother household in Pharr, Texas. She raised me while also taking care of her aging parents, while also working long hours at local convenience stores. Life wasn't easy growing up, but it was full of love and sacrifice. Both of my grandparents died when I was young, and they left my mother with invaluable advice. Work hard, get an education. Education is the pathway out of the grueling manual labor we had to endure throughout our entire lives. My mother dreamed of graduating from college. My mother dreamed of going to fashion school in New York. My mother dreamed of becoming her own boss and businesswoman. But life got in the way. My grandparents' passing left my mother with massive medical and funeral debt. She had to focus on raising her son and working 50 to 60-hour weeks. My mother did not achieve those dreams. Instead, she poured everything into me. She raised me with the values of hard work, self-advocacy, and consistency. She always told me, remember, education is your superpower. So I remember going to middle school hungry, looking forward to getting my hands on the free lunch. I remember going to high school with a toothache. and many other aches that just had to wait until the next paycheck. I remember going home to my mother, exhausted at the kitchen table after a long shift. I remember the day I discovered that if I were to apply and get accepted into Princeton University, I can go 100% for free because of my family's low income. So I worked hard. I stayed consistent. I advocated for myself. My mother dreamed of watching me graduate from college, and together we achieved that dream when I walked through the Fitz-Randolph gates at Princeton University. I know where I came from. I remember walking through the Princeton University campus and wondering, what am I going to do with this tremendous opportunity? How am I going to pay my Princeton education forward? I found my purpose in the university's informal motto: in the nation's service and the service of humanity. These words mean something special to me. These are the words that help me find purpose in why I chose to return home to my community to do the work I do today in education. At age 19, I formed my college access program that would help students like me get to and through college. My college access program began as a volunteer-led summer institute, and it transformed into my high school course, and it later transformed into an independent nonprofit organization, which to this day has guided over 2,000 students to and through the college application process. Since age 19, I've dedicated myself to uplifting students as a high school teacher, as a college professor, and a nonprofit leader. In all my education work, in and out of the classroom, I have worked hard to be in the nation's service and the service of humanity. In the year 2025, I believe that means going beyond the classroom walls and fighting for our public schools up in Austin. And we do have a fight on our hands. Our governor has finally signed into law his private school voucher program. Our Texas legislature has been captured by special interests determined to privatize public education. Our State Board of Education has become a political battleground influenced by extreme far-right forces. I'm a Democrat, but I'm an educator first. My platform is not a Democratic or a Republican platform. It is a platform that puts progress over politics. When elected to the State Board of Education, I will be doing much more than attending board meetings in Austin. I intend to be an active member in our 14-county district. I am a program person. I believe being on the ground in the community and getting short-term results is key. That's why I will work with our state lawmakers to reject the school voucher program and to invest more funds into our public schools, to prioritize school safety, to expand mental health resources and counselors at our public schools, to treat our school workers like the heroes that they are, which means paying them like the heroes that they are, to expand family engagement programs and to truly empower parents, to promote the trades, and to make college access for all a reality. And most near and dear to my heart, to fund new literacy and math programs that will help students read at grade level and focus on foundational math skills. All of this and more, in addition to getting more books into students' hands, getting more math tools into households, and being an active State Board of Education member that shows up everywhere, not just in my own backyard of Hidalgo County. As a State Board of Education member, I will do everything in my power to make Texas the nation's leader in reading and math. We can't prepare our students for the future if we're not teaching the basics effectively. Our approach to teaching reading should be based on what works, not on political or religious beliefs. We need to prioritize early reading success for all students, including students with disabilities and English language learners. Our approach to teaching math should be based on bringing math to life with practical and purposeful learning experiences. In other words, making math fun again. In all that I do, in reviewing our Texas essential knowledge and skills, in approving textbooks, and adopting new rules and policies for the Texas Education Agency, I will always follow what works. I will always follow research-based practices and not politics. And let me be clear, what I'm proposing is not new. I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. If it's working for another state, let's make it work for Texas students. There's no reason why Louisiana and Mississippi have rebounded in their reading scores, and yet Texas is still lagging behind. Mississippi had its Mississippi Miracle, in which it went from nearly the bottom in reading in the entire country toward the middle of the country in reading. It's time for our Texas Miracle. Of course, our teachers can't do this if they're forced to teach to the test. That's why I support abolishing the STAR test and moving away from high-stakes testing. I don't believe that these standardized tests should be determining the accountability scores given to our public schools by the Texas Education Agency. But I also believe it's not enough to simply say we need to move away from the STAR. We need an alternative vision for what our teachers should be teaching in our public school classrooms. That's why I support integrating what I call 21st century knowledge and skills into our academic subjects across all grade levels. That includes life readiness, interpersonal skills, soft skills, looking someone in the eye when you're speaking, shaking their hand, learning how to communicate. Financial literacy, which means not just learning how to budget, but how to apply that budget in a real-world scenario. Digital literacy, because our students are growing up in a digital age in which almost every student has access to a smartphone, and they need to learn how to keep themselves safe and vigilant online. I also believe we need to do better at teaching mental health and wellness. That means making mental health matter to all grade levels and to students from all backgrounds, teaching about emotional regulation, destigmatizing mental health. I also believe we need to make our students more globally competitive. Part of that means integrating service learning projects into our academic subjects, so students can go out into the classroom from the community, and we can bring the community into the classroom. This also means teaching critical thinking. That means moving away from rote memorization and filling in the blank and toward applying these real-world skills out in the community and thinking for yourself. I also believe the Texas Education Agency needs to step up in regard to artificial intelligence. Our teachers and our students see the impact of artificial intelligence in the classroom, and we need a statewide agency to take the lead on preparing our teachers on AI readiness so our students can become more globally competitive for the 21st century. And last but not least, creativity and innovation, because the ultimate goal of public education is not to make good students, it's to make lifelong learners. All of this and more in this speech, I have provided a vision for how I intend on leading at the State Board of Education. I've spent a lot of time thinking about the State Board of Education, because when I think about the State Board of Education, I think about my students. I think about the student who once asked me what the point of school was, because no one in their family could get a job anyway. I think about the student who walked into my final exam with a cut across their cheek and blood on their face, and all they asked for was a tissue. I think about the student who had to drop my class because her mother got deported to Mexico and they had to go find her. I think about the student who once told me I was the father figure he never had. I think about the student who wrote her college admissions essay on how her neighborhood believed a girl shouldn't be going to college. Well, we got her into Yale. I think about the student who thanked me for being there for them as they zoomed into my class from an empty parking lot, isolating from their family during the COVID-19 pandemic. I think about the student who called me to say goodbye, and over the course of our conversation, they chose not to jump. I think about the student who cried in the middle of my lecture on sentence structures because they were scrolling on their phone, witnessing in real time war and famine. I think about the student who once told me they're afraid of having children one day because they can barely support themselves in a one-bedroom apartment, much less an entire family. I think about the student who once wrote, "I just want to be somebody one day," as if they weren't already somebody. These are my students. These are the people that I'm fighting for. If we care about our children, if we care about our public schools, if we care about the future of our state, we must care about the State Board of Education. With so many dynamic races on the ballot, from U.S. Senate to governor to Congress, I get it. The State Board of Education will likely not get the attention that it deserves. But let me tell you today, this race is not only the most competitive State Board of Education race in the state, it is one of the most competitive races in our state. In 2022, District 2 was flipped from Democratic to Republican in the first time in its history by 0.4 percentage points. 0.4 percentage points. It's time. It's time to flip this seat back. It's time to elect a new generation of leaders to public office. It's time to make the Texas Miracle a reality and lead the nation in math and reading. It's time to stand up for our public schools and to reject school vouchers. It's time to teach for tomorrow, not to the test. It's time for an educator to represent us at the State Board of Education. My name is Thomas Ray Garcia. I am the educator and Democrat running for the State Board of Education District 2. I look forward to earning your vote in the Democratic primary on March 3rd, 2026.